All right, man, peace. So, brothers, maybe the most interesting series in either conference in the first round, in my view, will be the 3-6 matchup in the Western Conference between the Portland Trailblazers, who were swept last season in the playoffs by the Anthony Davis-led New Orleans Pelicans, squaring up against Russell Westbrook and Paul George of the Oklahoma City Thunder, who also went out last season in the first round. I do think that this is going to be a very pivotal series for both teams, because whichever team loses is going to have to face the facts that their team is not comprised of anything anywhere near championship material. And what is that GM of that particular team going to do in the offseason? Right now, they're both in very difficult positions. It's almost like having a really nice girlfriend who's not wife material. Are you just going to stick it out with that person, or are you going to try to move on to something more your style or more your liking, depending on what your standards are? That's what I see when I see Portland and OKC. A couple of nice teams that, if they advance in this year's playoffs, will be allowed to continue the delusion that they're a championship level team. The team that loses is going to have to face the facts and face reality. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
All right, next up, the 3-seed Blazers are the underdogs, according to Vegas, against the 6-seed Thunder, who swept Portland in the regular season.
And watch for some possible shenanigans between Damian Lillard and Russell Westbrook, because they have had some issues over the past 5 or 6 years between one another. It's very difficult to discern exactly which player is the better player. At a certain point, maybe 3-4 years ago, the answer to the question of who's better, Damian Lillard or Russell Westbrook, would have been a very easy answer. Everyone would have said Russell Westbrook. But at this point in both their careers, you could certainly make the case that Damian Lillard is a more effective lead guard than Russell Westbrook, depending on what you like. If you like a player who can stretch the floor and make clutch shots and make big plays in the clutch, then it's Dame. If you like a player who's a force of nature and is a physical freak, then you go at Westbrook. So watch for that matchup. It's going to be very, very pivotal. As for right now, I'm going to pick the Portland Trailblazers in 7 games.
Is Portland on upset alert again this postseason?
I don't think so. I'm going with the Blazers in this series.
Okay.
And I feel pretty confident about it. And
really?
Here's why. Look at Oklahoma City. I think we can all agree. Like you said, 2 all-world talents, but not really an execution team, right?
At all. And what are you really saying, Amino Hassan? When you say that a certain team is not an execution team, what you're really saying is that their point guard does not have a particularly high basketball IQ. That's what you're saying.
Let's start there. Then you look at 28th in free throw shooting, 23rd in three-point shooting.
Sounds like more attacks on Westbrook. We know that he's shooting 65% from the free throw line and about 2% from the three-point line.
These are all things that conspire for a team that's not playing well going into the playoffs.
Right.
These are all things that conspire that they're not going to play well. I think Portland, obviously,
So what you're really saying is that in the very close, crucial moments, when they're going to need Westbrook to make a play that's going to help his team and show calmness and a certain sense of wherewithal, when there are 5 seconds left, 10 seconds left on the shot clock, with 3 minutes left in the game, he's not going to be able to get the job done. And I agree.
The Nurkic injury is huge, but their bigs have stepped up. Collins, Cantor.
Collins can play.
I think they're going to win this series, and I don't think it's going to even be that. It's going to be like a redux of last year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was doing the game when Nurkic got hurt, and it was like, obviously, you were sad, but it was so.
That game was so crazy. I was watching that game. That was a great game between Portland and the Nets, and it went into 2 overtimes. And I think I turned it off when it went into the second overtime, and then I wake up the next day and find out that this guy cracked his leg in half. I'm like, wow.
It was so disappointing because ultimately, the Trailblazers season is over.
Yeah.
Right? It's over. Like yeah, they can win.
Their season was over even before Nurkic got hurt, even though I will give them this much credit. They were a dark horse in the Western Conference before Nurkic got hurt.
They can win a series. They can do. But you didn't really get. Everybody's been waiting to see if the.
Hey, yo, Jrue Holiday just totally embarrassed the Portland Trailblazers' whole team. Their whole backcourt. Like, Jrue Holiday, and that's why he got voted by the players the most underrated player in the NBA, because the players know how great he is. But he's not someone who wants to dominate the basketball and thereby stuff stats. But he's a player that if you ask him to, he can outplay Westbrook, he can outplay Dame Lillard. Just about the only guy in the NBA that he just cannot straight up outplay is Curry. because of the way in which Curry can stretch the floor. Curry can pull up from 30 feet, and then he's probably the best finisher at the rim of any small man in the NBA, proficiency-wise. Now, when it comes to the ability to make trick shots, of course, that's Kyrie. But just going off of the numbers and the proficiency, it's probably Curry. And that's why he's pretty much the only guy that Jrue Holiday just can't straight up embarrass if he wants to. But how he did McCollum and Dame last year, oh my goodness.
Portland Trailblazers can take that can get to that next level. Yes, you're going against the Warriors, you're going against these teams, but the minute they lost him, and they had a
Well, remember, Anthony Davis said that he does not have enough talent on the team to win, but he wants to go run and play with LeBron.
a great backup in Enes Kanter. They got him, and they had Collins. But he was the focal point. He was supposed to be that third all-star that could do it for you, that could go against Steven Adams. But this is one of those ones where Enes Kanter and Zach can't do anything about Steven Adams. So I just look at OKC winning this series, but it's still on.
Right, but the question is, how much are they going to use Steven Adams? When it comes to that matchup, Steven Adams is a bull in a china shop. But it's not like Russell Westbrook is going to feed him the basketball saying, Nurkic is not in the game, go out there and give us 25 points. So, I mean, I think Steven Adams is going to get his 14 and 10 whether Nurkic was in the game or not. The real question is, can Kanter and Collins make up for what Nurkic may have brought offensively, which would have been something like 16 and 10. So that's what they need to do. And Kanter is going to have to play something approximating defense, which he never plays, but he's going to have to try.
Still unfortunate because of that injury, we don't get to see what their team could have done this year.
Well, I agree with all of that. I'll take Oklahoma City also. And Damian Lillard's going to see just what he saw in the first round last year, in my opinion. Oklahoma City's going to trap him on every pick and roll. And now Nurkic was the guy you could give the ball to. He's gotten so much better making decisions out of the blitz. Enes Kanter can score on the block. He's not as good. You trap Lillard. You take away McCollum. I don't know what else Portland has.
Well, McCollum's not 100% healthy.
Right. He may not be available, or at least 100% healthy at that point. Now, I mean, you talked about the.
I like Portland's bench though, and Portland has a lot of shooting coming off their bench, especially with Curry's younger brother Seth Curry. I think that they have some components still that are going to give OKC some problems.
The issues that Oklahoma City has on offense and some inconsistency there, for sure. But defensively, they are still one of the better teams, I think, in the NBA. I did a game actually with Jeff, Stan's brother, recently against Indiana, where they went on a 24-0 run, and it was Paul George spearheading that thing on defense.
Did you say Indiana?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Richard Jefferson. You said Indiana. Like, come on.
Indiana?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying, 24-0 run is the biggest run of the entire season.
Did you say Indiana?
Okay. But they're a playoff team.
They are. I'm just cracking a joke.
It's not the Kings. You know what I mean?
The Kings actually have more firepower than Indiana, so don't try to clown on the Kings. But anyway, we'll see how that series turns out. Once again, even though Portland lost all 4 games to OKC, I'm still picking them to win this playoff series in 7 games. We'll find out. Because if they don't win this playoff series, and if they're not even competitive, if this is another showing like how Portland had last year against New Orleans, they might as well break that team up, and Dame might as well demand a trade. So anyway, peace.